There, right there. And then click your PowerPoint.
All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
All right, we're going to get started. So first of all, thank you for being here tonight. My name is Warren Brooks. I'm with Elevate Nutrition and Coaching. I've been doing this for about a year now. May 1st was a year. So I'm excited to bring you guys a nutrition challenge. And I wanted to talk about 3 steps to better nutrition for life, because it really simplifies itself into these 3 things. Because when I first started working with a nutrition coach, I thought it was going to be, this complex thing that I wasn't going to understand, and it was this perfect formula and this cookie cutter approach that I was going to, have all the answers at this point. Well, that wasn't the case. I learned that it's a lot simpler than I was thinking, and I overthought it for a long time until I worked with a coach one-on-one and learned the habits that led to that better nutrition for life and everything I wanted to do in my life. So we're going to get started here and with these 3 steps. All right, so first I want to start with an exercise. Okay. Let's see. Can you see it?
Yep, now it's back.
All right.
And now it's gone. See your mouse though, so I don't know what's happening.
Let me try it, share, stop it real quick, then I'll share it again. Can y'all see it now?
Yeah, all that
Okay. So here's a little exercise I want to do with all of you. So I want you to select a food or think of a food in your head. It could either be from one of the ones in this picture or one you think of, and think about it. And which one would you be willing to give up in order to reach your health and fitness goals? Whatever it is. It could be, the best physique of your life or being in the best shape of your life. I want you to think about that, and you could share it in the chat, or you could let me know. Just speak it out whenever you're ready. Ice cream. Okay, that's a good one. What else? Anybody else? Pizza. That's a good one. That's one I actually tried to give up for a long time. I realized it didn't work too well. Anybody else? Milkshake. Okay. All right. Trying to go to the next slide. So what if I told you that you didn't have to give up any of those foods, the milkshakes, the pizza, ice cream, in order to reach your goals? Would you believe me? And a lot of you maybe, scratch your heads like, I don't think that's possible to reach my goals and still eat these kind of foods. Well, if you don't believe me, then you can ask this girl right here. This is my beautiful wife, Kristen. And you can take her word for it. This goes to show her progress after we had our second child, Cooper. We had him, or I'll say she had him, in September, so September 7th of 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. And this was about 3 months postpartum, and she was ready to, get back on track with her health and nutrition after, having a baby and everything like that for the second time. So as you can see, in January 2021, she was 170 pounds. Well, then 9 months later, the same amount of time that she took to grow that beautiful baby boy of ours, she lost 18 pounds and looks great. I think she looks great in both photos, but you can tell a significant difference in her body composition from the first picture to the second picture. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what she did and didn't do. So this is what she did in order to reach her goals. She ate and enjoyed foods she loves. Yes, I underlined regular Coke because regular Coke has calories, has sugar, has carbohydrates. She enjoyed chocolate, which I think to this day, even when we were working with the coach, she has chocolate probably every night. And cake and pasta and stuff she enjoys. She was consistent week to week with her nutrition plan. I think when we first started, I said, in order to get back on track, let's start with just protein. Let's focus on that macronutrient. It helps with building good body composition, building muscle mass. Let's just start with that one, and we're going to track that one for maybe a month, and then we'll start tracking, your fats and carbs and stuff like that. And that's what she did. And she was mindful of her portion sizes because she'd done this before with her first child, and she did it again. And she played the long game, which is the most important. She didn't do something that was going to get her those same results in less time. She focused on just being consistent week after week, month after month, and that's what led to those long-term changes that are going to last and that are sustainable. And she was mindful about foods that she ate and why she was eating them. Every time we eat something, we can be mindful about why we are eating it. Sometimes we eat stuff and get into a mindset of, oh, I shouldn't be having this, and that can create a unhealthy relationship with food. So she was mindful about what she ate, portion sizes and everything like that. And she exercised 2 to 3 times per week. Nothing fancy. She did a lot of the mayhem programming like OTM does. She did the M30 program, which is a minimalist program where you work out for about 30 minutes, and that's it. Now let me tell you what she did not do. She didn't restrict or cut out certain foods that she enjoyed. She did not cut carbs. You hear people say that all the time. If you want to lose weight, you got to cut carbs. You gotta do keto. You gotta do that stuff. She did not eliminate fats. People, and I was one of these people. I used to think if you eat fat, you're gonna be fat. So she did not eliminate fats. Fats are actually a great energy source that your body can use when it's no longer using carbohydrates. And she did not go on a 30-day cleanse or a detox or anything like that, like I mentioned. She played the long game. And she did not focus solely on the number on the scale. This is something I've dealt with a lot of my clients. They get so focused on the number on the scale that they don't notice the other changes that are happening and other goals they can have outside of the scale. Away from the scale, you can feel better in the gym. You could have better energy levels. You could be sleeping better. You could feel more confident in yourself. So there's many other things like that can help. So step 1 is a better mindset with food. So a lot of times we get in this habit of labeling foods as good or bad. Ice cream is bad and spinach is good and apples are good and pizza is bad. But the thing is foods, you should not label foods as such. And when you label something as a bad food, like ice cream or pizza or something like that, your mindset when you eat it is you feel bad for eating it. Oh, I shouldn't be eating this, or you beat yourself up. I'm supposed to stay on this strict diet in order to reach these goals, and I've let myself down, and I'm, eating something that I shouldn't be eating. And also, when you get away from that mindset, you start seeing that food is fuel. We're all busy professionals. We're busy in the gym. We're busy with our kids. We need that food to fuel us throughout our days so that we have energy levels that are good. We have the energy to do all those things we love to do. And the next one is being mindful about what you're eating and why. looking at nutrition labels and finding out, is this going to help give me the best energy for what I'm doing today? Something like, a cupcake versus, a piece of fruit. Which one is going to give me the most energy to last me throughout my day? Probably that piece of fruit, right? It's got, more vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. And that's going to help fuel you. And to be mindful of that is something that's really going to help you move forward. Showing yourself some grace. A lot of times, like I mentioned before, when you eat those bad foods, you consider them bad, so you beat yourself up about them. But the thing is the whole point of this is to not be perfect. The goal is to have flexibility in your life, because life is going to throw some curveballs at you. It's going to give you lemons a lot of days, and you're going to have to roll with that. And the thing is, life is too short not to enjoy certain things, especially good food, especially cupcakes at a graduation party, especially cake at your daughter's birthday, stuff like that. So getting out of that perfectionist mentality and thinking you have to be strict with your diet to see results is a great thing. I'll grab some water real quick. So going on about a better mindset with food. So I like to think of all foods as being on a spectrum, with less nutrient-dense foods over on this side and more nutrient-dense foods on this side. And so the goal is to obviously eat more from this side than this side, because that's going to lead to better results and stuff like that. But the goal is to never eliminate certain foods. Never eliminate those bad foods, those foods you enjoy, the pizza, the ice cream, the milkshakes. You can have those just like you can have these over here, and they're just food. They're not bad foods. It's just food. They're just a little bit less nutrient dense, and you maybe shouldn't eat them at every meal. But if you want a donut, when you see a donut in the break room, you can grab a donut if you want it. Or if you see a cookie, or if you go to a birthday party, you can have a piece of cake. You don't have to refrain from eating those foods that you enjoy. Also, like I mentioned earlier, thinking of food as fuel. So a car needs gas to go, and gas nowadays is quite expensive. But just like a car, you too need fuel to go about your lives and do the things that you love. And the best form of energy is carbohydrates. It is broken down and is used as energy to fuel our days, to fuel our thoughts, our minds, and all the things we love to do. And when people start to cut those out, they're running on empty, literally. I've been that way myself before. I cut carbs one time, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have this great body composition like this friend of mine, and it didn't work out. I felt depleted, I was under eating, and I didn't have any energy. I was literally running on empty. So now that you have a better mindset when it comes to food, what do you do now? So you start implementing healthy habits. I love this quote by Aristotle. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. So if you keep doing the same thing over and over, a healthy habit, you're going to eventually reach that goal you're looking for. So I want to talk about two different scenarios. The first one is typical people on New Year's resolutions. They're going to go to the gym 5 days a week. They're going to eat clean. They're going to have, the perfect diet. Is that possible? Sure, it's possible. And they think about doing this from doing nothing before, not going to the gym at all to going every day. Surely it's possible, but is that reasonable? And the answer is no, it's not, because it is not sustainable. And you want something that is going to be sustainable for your whole life, that you can take from this point and move forward. You're not going from diet to diet or losing 10 pounds just to gain it back and having motivation and then not having motivation, because motivation is fleeting, but habits will stick with you as long as you keep working on them. So what if instead you committed to implementing just one healthy habit per week for the entire year? Does that seem more reasonable? Just one habit a week. And the answer is that it does, because it is sustainable. You know, it could be something as easy as, I'm going to drink more water this week. I'm going to carry a water bottle around with me, and I'm going to make sure that I get the water that I need because I know I need to be hydrated, and that's something I struggle with. And as you can see, I've always got mine with me. It could be something as little as, you know, I need to start eating more vegetables, so I'm going to eat one vegetable per day for the week. That's a great habit to work on. It's a small habit that's sustainable, and it's reasonable, and it's attainable for you. And in a year's time, who knows where you would be if you implemented those 52 habits. So now that you have a better mindset when it comes to food, and you've implemented some healthy habits, now what? Now is the time to educate yourself about what you are putting into your body. So foods are comprised of 3 macronutrients: protein, fats, and carbohydrates. Protein and carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram. They're the least dense. And then fats have 9 calories per gram. They're the most dense. And the reason, you know, you see everybody, all these headlines about keto and everything like that, and why people are successful with that, is because even though fats are the most dense and have the most calories per gram, most people in America and other places too overconsume carbohydrates. So keto is getting rid of carbs and you're replacing it with fat. So the only thing is they're no longer over-consuming those carbohydrates. They're in a caloric deficit. So that's why they lose weight. And but the reason to focus on, I like to focus on all 3, is because it really gives you a good balance and helps provide the energy you need, promote recovery, and build and maintain muscle. And foods are also comprised of micronutrients. So these are those small nutrients in all those healthy foods that we think of. We think of bananas, spinach, fish has some in it, meat has some in it, all the fruits and vegetables. These have those vitamins and minerals, iron, different B vitamins. One from getting from the sun is vitamin D. All of these help aid in essential bodily functions. They help with brain function, how your heart functions, all of your, how muscles contract and function during a workout, how you recover from certain activities that you do, how you sleep. Magnesium is a big one. That one helps a lot with sleep. And dark cherries are one of the best ones for that, and I eat those every night. So one thing you can do is start to read your nutrition labels. Foods today are made with so much stuff in them that it's hard to tell if it is still a food or not. So when you're looking at a nutrition label, here's some things to look for. First, look at the ingredients. Because sometimes it could be a list of ingredients that are a mile long, or it could be something as short as 1 or 2 things. And those are the best foods, you know, like on that spectrum I said. The ones on that far end, the more nutrient dense, are going to have less ingredients. And those on the far end are going to have more because they're more processed, they've got more refined stuff in them, sugars and stuff like that. And sometimes certain foods will be labeled as, you know, low fat or stuff like that, but the first ingredient is often sugar because that's what they replace it with to make sure it tastes good. So here are some things that I like to look at when I'm looking at a nutrition label. Look at the calories, protein, fat, and carbs. So sometimes they'll sneak in and throw a bunch of fat in there if there's no carbs, and vice versa. If there's no fat, there's usually a lot of carbs. And protein. That's something you need to be mindful of if you're trying to maintain the muscle that you've built or if you're looking to gain muscle. So here's an example for looking at a serving size of peanut butter. So, which this is different for a lot of people because to me a true serving of peanut butter is a big old spoonful. But here is a true serving of peanut butter. It's either 2 tablespoons or 32 grams per serving. So that 32 gram serving consists of 16 grams of fat, 7 grams of protein, and 8 grams of carbs. So when you start putting those in, and MyFitnessPal weighing your food, that best unit of measurement is going to be those grams. That's going to tell you the best, keep you on track with the best measurement for that. So always look at that as well when you're looking at something, because also it could be very small serving. 32 grams is a pretty small serving, but it packs a lot of fat, 16 grams of fat, so it can sneak up on you real quick if it's a small serving like that. And also look at added sugars and look at fiber. So another thing you need to look out for, like I mentioned earlier, watch out for flashy advertising. Gluten-free, fat-free, whole grain. For whole grain, they really don't have to put 100% whole grain. It just has to be a certain percentage for them to label it as whole grain. And do your own research. If you're deficient in certain vitamins, look up foods that are rich in those micronutrients like vitamin K and iron. There's a lot of fruits and vegetables that have those different vitamins and minerals in them. And also, go to a farmer's market. Those are some of the great sources of fresh produce, vegetables, and meats, because they're sourced very well. They're not raised with antibiotics. They're grass-fed, grass-finished, and stuff like that. They're not fed all this grain and processed stuff. They're usually free from pesticides and things like that that can be harmful to you, and things of that nature. So now that I've given you 3 steps towards better nutrition, you are packed and ready to go. Does anybody have any questions? Can everybody hear me? Does anybody have any questions about anything, or any questions about the challenge that's coming up next Monday? Kim, you're muted.
Did you share with us how the challenge is going to run?
So first we're going to start off on Monday. Once I get everybody's form and go through it, I'm going to create macronutrients, and I've done it for most of the people who filled them out so far. I've created macronutrients based on all that feedback. So nutrition is not a cookie cutter approach. So, a lot of times certain companies will have somebody that weighs a certain weight, say they're 160 pounds and they're 5'10". They'll give out a standardized template for somebody about that weight for maintaining muscle, gaining muscle, and losing muscle. Well, that is based on just research of a pool of people, generally. It is not specific to you and your goals and what you have going on in your life. So what I do with all the information you give me is I look at that and I'm like, oh, well, Nick maybe wants to gain muscle. Well, if he needs to gain muscle, well, I'm going to give him a good amount of protein. I'm going to give him some carbs, because he's going to need to gain good weight and build that muscle so that he can gain that really good weight that he wants. But I'm not going to give him too much, because we want to have a lean bulk instead of just a bulk. A lot of people see bodybuilding magazines and stuff like that. When you're on a bulk, you can eat everything you want. You can eat ice cream. You just need to get calories in. But that's not the case. You have to do it the right way. And so what I'm doing with that information is getting everybody the macronutrients they need specifically for them, as opposed to what generally works for most people in the population. And so on Monday, I'm going to provide all that to you. Every week, we're going to do a Zoom call similar to this every Thursday night, 7:30. And I'm going to be able to answer any questions that anybody has. And for each week, just like I talked about in the presentation, I'm going to give one habit for you to work on for that week. I've already provided for you. You don't even have to think about it. And I'm going to give you that habit, and that's something you're going to check off on your calendar every day if you were successful in doing that. Whether it's hydration or, limiting as much alcohol or getting in a certain amount of steps per day. We're going to focus on those little steps here and there, and I'm going to provide those calendars to you on Monday so that you have them for the entire challenge. And the Zoom calls are mainly for any adjustments that need to be made. If your energy levels are kind of tanked and I didn't give you enough food, we're going to adjust that. We'll change your macronutrients week to week if we need to, based on that feedback. And I can answer any questions that y'all have about specific foods or anything like that during that time. Yeah, I can hear you. And I think that would be a great thing to do at the beginning of the challenge and then at the end. That way, if you're Yeah, and I'll tell you why that's a great thing too. Is I had a client I worked with recently who she wasn't changing any weight on the scale or anything like that, but her clothes were fitting differently. So obviously her body was changing based on what she was eating and what she was doing as far as coaching goes, but the scale didn't change. And sometimes that will not be reflected in a number on the scale. It will be that your clothes fit better, you're stronger, you have more muscle mass. And that scan will show you a lot of that if your body hasn't changed as far as the scale goes. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions about anything? Any general nutrition questions or questions about the challenge? Well, I hate there weren't any more people here because my wife brought a big batch of chocolate chip cookies, so I guess we'll have to just make some more for Murph, because I'm all about some chocolate chip. Do what?
Just bring them to Murph. Just freeze them and then bring them around.
Yeah, I can do that. I don't know, they might not last in my house that long. Yeah. All right, well, if anybody has any other questions you think of outside of this, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to answer those. I'm going to get all those numbers to you probably Monday morning before Murph, and then we'll talk about it a little bit after Murph. I'm planning on bringing some Gatorade and some snacks and stuff like that to have after, maybe some fruit, some bananas, maybe some fruit snacks or something like that. That way we're going to lose a lot of water, salt, and we're going to need to replace that after getting done with that tough workout. So thank you everybody for being present on Zoom. I'm excited for the challenge. I'm excited for to work with all of you and to see all the goals you're working towards and help you reach those goals. All right, y'all have a great night.